Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am sharing my top 5 tips and recommendations to help you choose what foods you may want to eat and maybe what foods you want to limit or avoid in your diet in order to help improve your gut health. In case you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Marissa and I am a pharmacist and health coach, and I make videos all about gut health and how to improve it and share lots of recipes and different wellness tips. So if those are topics that you are interested in, then I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel. So just in case you missed last week's video, I shared my top 5 foods to maybe consider adding into your diet in order to help improve your gut health. But just as important, if not more important, is figuring out maybe like what foods you may want to limit or avoid in order to improve your digestion. A lot of foods can act as trigger foods for us and kind of throw us off balance and make it really difficult to kind of feel good and have, proper and healthy digestion that we just feel great with. That is why I'm going to be sharing my top 5 tips and recommendations on maybe what you should be looking for when you're choosing food products. And with a lot of the tips that I'm going to share in today's video, you do want to remember that if you are just personally actively struggling, really having a hard time eating like anything because your stomach just really hurts, besides, maybe going to see a doctor, you may want to temporarily at least limit or avoid certain food products just to kind of give your body a chance to heal and reset. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to avoid these things for the rest of your life, depending on who you are and your medical history and all of that. But I just wanted to make sure I said that because I feel like a lot of times when we are thinking about like getting healthy, fixing a problem, or overcoming some struggles, we always think we have to go on this really weird, just restrictive diet and then we're going to be on it forever. We're never going to enjoy the foods that we really love or our guilty pleasures or whatever ever again. And that is just simply not the case. There are ways to enjoy your favorite foods and snacks in healthier ways that will ultimately not set you back with your digestion and help you feel good moving forward. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there before I begin. Tip number 1 is to check your ingredients. Now, this mainly applies to processed foods because whole and natural foods are not going to have an ingredient list, thinking like just like an apple. And when it comes to your processed foods, what you want to do is not necessarily check the front of the box, bag, whatever. You want to turn it around and check the nutrition label, and the ingredient list is right below that. And how do you read an ingredient list is by looking that the listed ingredients are listed by quantity. So it's going to go from highest to lowest. So the first ingredient is going to be present in the highest amount within that food product. And obviously the one at the very bottom is going to be in the least or the lowest quantity within that food product. Also, the fewer ingredients you see listed, the better. There are some products out there that have an ingredient list that is like really, really long, and it's just not something that you really want to bring into your diet, especially if you are having trouble pronouncing the names that are listed. Now, because we don't really know 100% like what ingredients are used in the food that we get when we go to a fast food restaurant or just a regular restaurant, it is best to keep the amount of times you go out to eat to a minimum. So now, why are we talking about processed foods and checking ingredients and everything, and why does that even matter for our gut health and our digestion in order to improve and maintain it? And the reason is because if the ingredients present are not of the more healthier side of ingredients, a lot of times what happens is that due to the poor ingredients, it can negatively affect your gut microbiome. It can cause inflammation in your gut. It can cause increased intestinal permeability, which is also known as leaky gut, none of which is what we are looking for when we are trying to support our gut health. So just to share an example of what I'm talking about here, a really good one is like a nut or seed butter. So let's just take peanut butter for example. So a lot of times you go to the aisle in your grocery store that has the preservative bread, it has the jelly, it has the peanut butter or the nut butter, and you go there and you just see so many different brands and you think, okay, it's just peanut butter, I'll just pick up one, it doesn't really matter. Or maybe the one that's on sale or whatever. And unfortunately, it does matter. So if you looked at some of the ingredients present in the peanut butter, a lot of times you will see, obviously the peanuts, maybe some salt, but a lot of times you'll see like sugar, you'll see high fructose corn syrup, you'll see hydrogenated oils or palm oil. And those last few ingredients are really unnecessary to have in your peanut butter. The only thing you really need are the peanuts and maybe some salt, depending on your taste buds. But the other ingredients there are really just increasing the trans fat or the saturated fat content, as well as sugar content, which is really not needed, especially since, as I'm going to talk about a little bit later, we are really eating a lot of carbohydrates in our day, a little too much probably, and we need to figure out ways that we can kind of limit that without completely cutting it out, because again, that's not realistic. So just feeding off of the ingredients that may be present in the peanut butter that you are maybe eating, the hydrogenated oils or the high fructose corn syrup. If you see those ingredients, then my recommendation is that you put the product back on the shelf and that you don't get it. You don't really want to be eating those particular ingredients, is because they have shown to be very negative and create harmful effects on your health, not just your gut health, but your overall health. So a lot of times they increase your risk for inflammation, they increase your risk for diabetes, they increase your risk for weight gain, increase your bad LDL cholesterol, they potentially increase your cancer risk. So my recommendation is just to put them back. You don't need them in your food products, and there are a lot safer ways to eat processed foods that don't have those two particular ingredients in them. So just go ahead, put them back on the shelf. You don't need them. Other ingredients to be aware of and limit or avoid in your food products, if you can, are artificial flavorings, food additives like MSG or monosodium glutamate, or even preservatives. When it comes to a lot of these ingredients, along with like the hydrogenated oils, they have been linked to hyperactivity in children, maybe some allergic reactions, or even may promote cancer risk. So they're not something that you really want to include in your diet if you don't have to. Now, if you're thinking like, geez, why are these ingredients, if they're so bad for my health, why are they listed on the ingredient list, or why are they included in these food products that I'm eating? And a lot of times it's because these ingredients can help increase the shelf life of the product. They can either enhance flavor or appearance, maybe help with texture and stability of the product. So companies have found that these ingredients can help to keep their products lasting longer, whether it's in the grocery store or even in your home. And unfortunately, although it really does help them out with their products, it doesn't necessarily help our health out. So I would recommend that you limit these chemicals and ingredients as much as possible. Now, at this point, if you are sad or worried about like all the food in your pantry and thinking like, geez, if I can't eat this, what am I gonna eat or snack on? I just want to say, like, don't worry. There are a bunch of emerging companies and food products that are coming out with healthier ingredient lists, as well as other companies that are selling these products at a discounted rate. So do not worry. Moving on to tip number 2, and that is to beware of excess added sugar. So another name for sugar is carbohydrates. So I'm going to be using them both interchangeably throughout this video. But when it comes to carbs or sugars, they are everywhere. They are in almost every product, whether they're supposed to be there just from naturally being present, or if they are being added. So we want to be really cautious about the sugar that is being added into our food and food products. So when it comes to this, a lot of times what I hear from individuals is like, Marissa, wait a minute. I don't eat a lot of added sugar. Like, I really don't. I don't have a lot of sweets in my life. And a lot of times, unfortunately, these sugars are hidden. And it is really key to learn the lingo of what the sugars are, or just to understand what's going on so that you can be a more informed and cautious consumer. So that is what we're going to talk about today. But I'm going to give like a little bit of an example of like a daily diet that is, I think, pretty common, or even maybe on the more healthier side, because this is just foods that you could even just have at home and you're not even going out to eat. So for example, let's just say for breakfast, you have some cereal and some low-fat milk, and you add in some fruit. All of that has carbohydrates in it. Then we have lunch. Let's just say you're having a sandwich. So obviously the bread has carbohydrates, but the deli meat can as well. If you put on a condiment like mustard, that has sugar as well. Let's say you have a cookie with it, that's sugar as well. Then if we have like a mid-afternoon snack, let's say you have maybe some dried fruit, maybe you have some like candied nuts or something like that, like almonds or something with like honey roasted almonds or something, again, that has sugar in it. Another thing you could have is like yogurt. Even if it's a good quality yogurt, it has sugar in it. Maybe you have an apple, again, more sugar. And then if you have like dinner, let's say you have like jarred pasta sauce, that potentially can have sugar in it as well. And maybe you have it over some pasta or some rice or whatever, again, more carbohydrates. And then if you have dessert, then like cookies, cakes, pies, donuts, whatever, what have you, all of that has excess sugar or carbohydrates. So I just want you to see that like each meal has carbohydrates listed, and if you're having a really hard time struggling with like blood sugar control or diabetes or something like that, it is definitely a lot of excess added sugar within our diets these days. When it comes to gut health, excess sugar, it can be really hard on your gut microbiome because the bad bacteria that is present or the bad fungi that is present within our gut can actually feed off of a lot of sugar. So it's like a food source for them, and it can make everything kind of worse and increase the amount of those present. And obviously that's going to throw our gut microbiome off balance and make it really hard to control things like gas and bloating. So that is a really good reason just for that alone to just try to limit or decrease the amount of sugar that you are eating within a day. I am not by any means saying that you need to go sugar-free, that you're not allowed to eat any carbohydrates in the day. That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that we are potentially eating a lot more sugar than we need, or carbohydrates than we need, because we do need them in our day, but I think we're having too much, and a good thing to do is just to try to decrease that or lessen the amount that we are consuming on a daily basis. So like I just mentioned a moment ago, what we really want to focus and narrow in on is the excess added sugar. So this is sugar that is not naturally present and is added into the food product. So instead of eating a yogurt that has 24 grams of sugar in it, maybe try having one that has like 11 grams of sugar in it. Or you can even go with a plain yogurt and just add a little bit of honey on top. Another good example is instead of eating nut butter or seed butter that has sugar present in the ingredient list, opt for the one that does not have sugar in the ingredient list. Again, you don't need it, and if you want to sweeten it, you can always drizzle some honey or some maple syrup right on top. I promise you, it tastes so much better, especially once you start getting used to like the way real food tastes instead of the artificial or processed foods. I promise you, it's like you almost lose your taste buds for it. Another good example is instead of having juice that has added sugar in it, because fruit already has natural sugar, you don't really need added sugar into it, then opt for the juice that has no added sugar in it. Or better yet, drink water. While we're on the topic of beverages, instead of drinking soda, you can have some club soda with maybe some lemon juice or lime juice squeezed into it. Tastes really good, especially if it's cold. Instead of having cookies and cakes and donuts and ice cream for dessert, maybe try to go with like some steamed or fried apples, or even like baked apples, and you can put a little bit of like maple syrup and like some cinnamon right on top. That's really good. Also, instead of having sweet tea, you can have unsweetened tea. Another thing is like instead of having a candy bar during your mid-afternoon lull at the office or wherever you work, instead of having a candy bar, maybe have like a date bar. You can either make it yourself, or there are companies that sell them as well. And then the last example I'm going to share today is instead of eating oatmeal with sugar in it, a lot of times if you buy like a flavored oatmeal at the grocery store, there is added sugar present in the ingredient list. So instead of doing that, just go ahead and make yourself some oatmeal. You can always put some fresh fruit on top, or you can even drizzle a little bit of honey or maple syrup. My personal favorite is a little maple syrup on top, and it is so good, like total game changer. So as you can see in these healthy swap ideas that I just mentioned, we are just trying to decrease or lessen the amount of sugar that you are consuming within your meal or your snack or your day. We are not trying to cut it out completely. We do need carbohydrates in our day, but we're just trying to move from a very processed form of carbohydrates to a more natural form of carbohydrates, because Even though at the end of the day, they're all sugar, it all comes down chemically to sugar that is, has to be processed by your body. When we are eating sugar that it comes from a natural source like maple syrup, honey, or even fresh fruit, we are getting other nutrients as well. We have vitamins, minerals, stuff like fiber. All of that is really going to help with your gut health as well. Now, that being said, if you can try to limit your sugar and you're still feeling some digestive discomfort, then you may want to limit it a little bit more, at least temporarily. Again, sugar, even if it's natural sugar, can potentially throw off your gut microbiome. So it's just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying to be super restrictive about this. I'm just saying let's try to be selective about where we're getting our carbohydrates from. So just try to do the best that you can and see over time how your gut health starts improving as you decrease and lessen the amount of sugar that you consume on a daily basis. So tip number 3 is to watch how much caffeine you consume in a day. So I am not saying not to drink your morning cup of coffee or your tea. In fact, coffee and tea, like green tea, can actually have a lot of great health benefits, including having a high amount of antioxidants present, which can help protect your body against oxidative stress, which can promote inflammation if it's not caught by these antioxidants. So it's, they can be a really great thing. But for some people, they can irritate the gut and the gut lining. So I just want to say that if you are somebody who is experiencing that, then you may need to kind of act accordingly. So instead of having, regular coffee, maybe you can try decaf, maybe you can try half regular, half decaf, kind of play around with it and see which works best for you. This is a very individualized thing. So it's just going to have to be something that you play around with and see what again works best for you. So the other thing though is that if you switch to decaf and it's still causing you a problem, then you may need to try a non-caffeinated tea or maybe an herbal coffee or something out there just to try to help you feel better. Another food that has caffeine in it is chocolate, so keep that in mind. So if you're eating chocolate late at night and your stomach starts to feel a little weird, then it could be from the caffeine content in there if you are someone who is very sensitive to caffeine. Now, before I move on to tip number 4, I just want to emphasize that when it comes to caffeine, that you can actually purchase caffeine as a pill supplement at your grocery store or pharmacy. And another place that you can find caffeine is in energy drinks. So I want to caution you very carefully on those. I do not recommend energy drinks or caffeine pill supplements. They not only can be very unhealthy for your body, but they can also be very, very dangerous. So I would recommend that you stay away from them completely. Tip number 4 is to be careful about spicy and acidic foods. So again, individual thing here. You have to see how you and your body react. You may be fine with the majority of the foods, but maybe there's 1 or 2 that cause you a little bit of discomfort, and it's just something that you need to again realize, take note of, and then plan and act accordingly moving forward. So these foods, they're not awful. A lot of them have a lot of great health benefits to them. Again, just like the coffee and the green tea. But again, the spicy or the acidic foods may trigger some abdominal pain in some individuals who are more sensitive to it, especially when it comes to acid reflux. So see how your body reacts and just act accordingly. So for example, let's just say with spicy foods that you really enjoy eating, a lot of the spicy peppers, maybe instead of using the seeds in the cooking as well as the pepper, maybe just use the pepper and not include the seeds in the food. If you're still having trouble with that, then you may need to cut down even more. When it comes to something like chili, maybe use a little bit less chili powder than you normally would. Otherwise, you may need to avoid it entirely until your body has a chance to heal. And once your body has a chance to heal, you may be able to slowly bring these things back into your life within moderation. And last but not least, tip number 5 is to consider limiting your gluten and dairy consumption. And there is a lot going on with these 2 particular food products, and what I'm just going to briefly mention in this video here is that if you are trying to improve your gut health, you may want to consider either avoiding or limiting them in order to see how your body reacts to them to again hopefully improve your gut health. I mention this because there are certain people out there that may have allergies or food sensitivities to these particular food products and may not even know it. So by taking it out of your diet or limiting how much you consume, you can kind of see how your body reacts to it, and then again proceed accordingly. This is a very individualized thing. There are some people out there who do perfectly fine with dairy products. There are some people out there that can eat gluten within moderation and they're fine. And then there are others that really have a negative reaction to both of them or one of them and have to decrease or limit how much of them that they take. I have seen some people be able to eat dairy that is made from goats or sheep and just not cows. I have seen individuals be able to have fermented dairy like yogurt or kefir, and cheeses that maybe have been aged but have trouble with milk. And I have even seen some people who are able to eat dairy as long as there is no lactose present. So again, this is very individualized. You're gonna have to play around with it, see how you feel, and then again, plan accordingly. And then when it comes to gluten, gluten is a protein that is found in wheat products to help them maintain their shape. Common examples of them are like semolina, spelt, einkorn, whole grain, refined white flour, anything like that is going to have gluten in it. Barley, rye, farro, couscous, stuff like that, all of that is going to be a wheat containing product. So if you are somebody who has a definite allergy to wheat, you're gonna have to avoid the gluten containing products. If you are someone who has celiac disease, you're gonna have to avoid gluten containing products as well. But if you are somebody who has like a mild sensitivity, maybe you just get some brain fog or you get a little bloated when you have it, maybe you can get away with eating bread that has a cleaner ingredient list. A lot of breads have a long ingredient list, which again goes back to tip number 1. So just be conscious of that as well. You may be able to have fermented bread like sourdough bread. A lot of times people who have a mild sensitivity to gluten are able to better digest sourdough bread than non-fermented bread. And then another thing that you may be able to try is a product that is made from non-hybridized wheat. So there's einkorn or spelt, just for example, and you may be able to better digest that than something that is more of a modern hybridized wheat like the refined white flour that is found in a lot of our baked goods and breads these days. Alrighty, you guys, so those are my top 5 tips to help you when you are trying to decide what to eat and maybe what to avoid or limit when it comes to trying to help improve your gut health. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Ultimately, the takeaway from this video is that try to make whole and nourishing and natural foods the majority of your diet. And then when it comes to processed foods and other food products, to try to do your best and pick the healthiest option that you have available to you in that particular moment. Figure out your triggers and plan your meals and snacks accordingly. And by following these tips and choosing more healthy foods and incorporating those into your diet, over time you will start to see your gut health improving, and then your digestive distress symptoms will lessen and maybe even go away entirely depending on what you are dealing with. So with that, I hope that you all have enjoyed this video and learned a lot. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. It definitely helps me out. Feel free to share it with anyone who you think might benefit from watching this video. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.